There's zero doubt in my mind that the SPL Channel One Mark III is making all of my microphones sound better, including the Neumann U87, the king of voiceover mics. Now, when you consider investing in premium gear, the expectation is that you will gain a significant impact, a positive impact in your overall tonal product. And so what I'm finding is that the features on the SPL Channel One Mark III are really it's almost like they designed them for voiceover to fix specific issues like sibilance. But one thing that it definitely fixes is the honk on the U87.
From the mind of Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov.
Now, I have an issue with that region. Now, it's not a deal breaker, the honk in the U87, that mid-range honk, right? Which for me hits right around 550 hertz, I think. But for a lot of people, it's problematic. It's like digging like way up your nose and it's just pulling out a very nasal sound, right? You get almost like a really weird nasal cavity resonance. And they addressed that in the U89 to fix that. But, we're talking about the U87. And so what I've discovered is there's a feature on the SPL Channel One Mark III that completely smooths that out. And if you're saying to yourself, I don't hear that problem now, it's because I'm using that feature on the SPL Channel One Mark III. And I'm going to tell you what that is in a second. But first, let me take this out. Let me just take this out of the chain entirely with one button press. So this is with it on, right? This is with this feature on, this resonance killing feature on, right? So I'm going to count to 4 and then I'm going to turn it off and you'll hear the difference. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So now you're really hearing a lot more like a prominence in that energy, right? It doesn't feel as balanced as it did before. It feels like there's a little bit more of that energy, right? Right around there, right? And it sticks out and even though, it is kind of pushing a resonant area of my voice forward, I feel like overall that region just feels like it shouldn't be as it shouldn't poke out as much. So let me put this feature back in. So here it is with it back in. And you can hear that region smoothed out again. So let me do the 4 count a couple of times. I'll alternate between this feature being off and on. And then I'm going to tell you what it is and how it works. So this is with it on. So it's going to be on, off, on, off. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can really feel here, let me put it back in. So you can really feel the difference it's making. So what I'm using on the SPL Channel One Mark III, and this to me is a complete game changer, is the Transient Designer. Now, I love the de-esser on this. I love all the features on this, but the use of the Transient Designer for voiceover was not something I ever considered before, but what it's doing is remarkable. So I'm just using a tiny touch of it. A little bit of Transient Designer goes a long way. So there are two knobs and one button, on-off button and 2 knobs. And the way you use it is simple, at least for me. So there's an attack knob, and the attack knob really will help you emphasize or de-emphasize that initial onset of transients, right? So if you have a percussive sound that you want to make more percussive, you add more attack. But I'm dialing back just a hair, just like a dB or 2, just a tiny, tiny bit, just barely past the indent at 12 o'clock, just barely past that. So I'm taking a little bit of the heat off of that initial transient onset. And that also helps with plosive management, which is good when you work close up, with voiceover. But I think really here, the secret sauce is the sustain. Now, what the sustain does is it also takes that transient and it allows it a little bit more room to breathe. It forces it to sustain a little bit more, like a sustain pedal. But I'm just adding the tiniest bit of sustain. Again, I am just taking it past the indent at 12 o'clock, just to the right, just adding the tiniest bit of sustain. And so this is what it sounds like with the Transient Designer on, and this is what it sounds like with the Transient Designer off. So, the difference for me is huge because the focus now becomes on this honky region here. And then when I take it out, It really smooths it out. It sounds much more professional. It sounds much more polished. And so this issue that I faced with the U87, ever since I got it, ever since I've been working with this mic, I love the sound of the U87. I mean, it's amazing, but it's problematic in that one region that has always been an issue until now. So what I truly love about this SPL Channel One Mark III is that every single mic I've put through it sounds so much better than through any other rig. And I love the all analog sound of it. Just sounds so rich and natural and organic. But fixing this honk is really truly one feature that I feel that in the de-esser and everything it does, worth the price of admission. So, if you're talking about bang for your buck, when you go premium and you get this much bang for your buck, you really feel like you're doing something. And as far as channel strips go, I mean, you have what? The Vox box? The Vox box is what? The Vox box is $5,500 new. $5,500 new. The Avalon is like what? $3,800 new? The SPL Channel One Mark III, this thing is like, what is it? It's like in the twos, right? Yeah, isn't it? Right? So the thing is, it's half the price of a Vox box, and it's 2/3 the price of an Avalon 737. And to me, the Avalon 737 is a little bit too woolly, for voiceover. And the Vox box, to me, I don't like the de-esser. I don't like the compressor on it. The optical compressor, I think, is a little too slow. The de-esser always needs a backup de-esser. And I just feel like, for me, the Vox box feels a tiny little bit scooped in a way that I think works great for music. But for voiceover, for me, I'm not really like diving headfirst into the Vox box fan club. So what I love about the SPL Channel One Mark III is that it feels like it's purpose-built for voiceover. To turn your area into something that sounds like $1 million studio. But it's just sublime. That is really it, sublime. That's the review. So what do you think? What it's doing with the U87 is really, for me, I mean, just so huge, because it really makes me feel like the U87 doesn't have this, I don't want to call it a crippling fault, but it is something that you do have to kind of, deal with. And for me, once you kind of hear that honk, you can't unhear it. And I don't want the audience to be like that either. I don't want the listener to feel like, what is that resonant? I don't want them to be focused on anything other than the performance. That, the sound has to fit. And I think when you do something like that and you smooth it out, it fits anywhere. But what do you think? All right? The SPL Channel One Mark III and the U87. German engineering at its finest. So, leave a comment. All right, until next time, this is Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov, fading to black.